All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. We're still having a conversation about the revenue divide formula that has stalled in the Senate for a record 7 times. Joining me now is David Osian. He's the CEO, Crestwood Marketing and Communication, but on this occasion, he'll put on his governance and policy hat, so he's a governance expert now. David, what do you make of this entire quagmire in the Senate?
Thank you very much, Trevor, for having me this morning. Now, what is going on at the Senate is that every single person is fighting for an equitable future. There's a difference between equality and equity. And sometimes I think we need to explain what equity is to our people in a language they can understand. I explain it thus. If we are all headed to Nairobi, but one person is starting from Kakamega, while the other person is starting from Kericho, and you expect that they will get to Nairobi at the same time, then you need to ensure the person in Kakamega, who is hundreds of kilometers away from Nairobi, is aided to cover for the distance between Kakamega and Kericho, or else the person in Kericho will obviously get to Nairobi before the Kakamega guy. Equity attempts, therefore, to ensure that when you're from Kakamega, if the person from Kericho is in a bus, then we probably get you a Ferrari, which will be doing twice the speed, so that you get to Nairobi at nearly the same time. In fact, if you are from Kakamega, there will be no police to stop you for speed, whereas for the Kericho guy has to be stopped for speed. That is the spirit of equity. Equality means that the person from Kericho and the person from Kakamega will both be given the same opportunities, same matatu, easy coach itoke Kakamega, another easy coach leaves Kericho. Obviously, they will travel at the same pace, and by the time the person in Kericho gets to Nairobi, the Kakamega gentleman or lady will just be making his or her way to Nakuru. And so this fight in the Senate is a fight I actually support, because this is about the future. It seems to me as though the Commission on Revenue Allocation has decided for no apparent reason to have an affront on the spirit of the Constitution, which envisaged equitability, which envisaged that we would cure the problems of marginalization. And so this could go on as much as it could, but it's about time, I think, that the leadership of the nation looks at themselves in the eye and say, we need a solution for this impasse.
So with all these options that they have on the table, which one would then best bring out the spirit of equity? Because there's this issue Sakaja has put on the table that the revenue that is currently available be shared as it was all along, but if there's anything more, then they can subject it to a different math. But there are those who are saying 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote.
The 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote agenda is warped and mistaken. I think we need to look at our friends supporting 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote and tell them there is a reason why no formula before factored in population. For the simple reason that factoring in things as population would return us to marginalization. The Constitution attempted to cure marginalization by creating something called the Equity Fund, the Equalization Fund. And do you know what happened to the Equalization Fund? It was accessed by people who did not need to access it. So people decided unscrupulously to go and say, we are from Kericho, we are from Nyeri, we are also marginalized. When the Constitution explains very well what ought or ought not happen with the Equalization Fund. And so counties that were not part of the marginalized counties originally accessed the Equalization Fund from the back door. Now, if Mount Kenya counties accessed this fund from the back door, which was already wrong, it would be unfair to the counties that were originally marginalized to now decide that beyond and above accessing their funds from the back door, which were supposed to bring them to the same level with the rest of the country, now we again want to say that population should matter. And we are trying to explain this with very simplistic notions, like the per capita for the person in Kiambu is 3,000, while for the person in Lamu, it's 20,000. And I dare ask, 3,000 shillings is more than enough for the person in Kiambu who only needs to walk to a nearby hospital, who only needs to walk to the nearby school. Whereas for the person in Lamu who has to use the first 3,000 on transport to get to a decent health service, the 20,000 cannot even be enough. In fact, I dare say that if that is the basis and the reason that we are going to have this debate, then why don't you consider that the persons in Kiambu have had this almost similar amount of 3,000 per capita for the last 50 years, whereas the persons in Mandera, Wajir, and all these other parts of the country, and Turkana, have been disadvantaged for the same number of years. There is a reason why teachers who are posted, for example, to Turkana will feel punished. There is a reason why the police service punishes those in areas, is because it is almost impossible to access some services in these areas. And this is the Kenya we want to cure, a Kenya where the whole nation can be a place and a platform and a panacea for business, for good living, for quality standards of life.
Do you see some level of interference between these separate entities of government, the executive and the legislature? Do you feel like there's some level of interference there? Because now you make a lot of sense. This seems like a very straightforward argument, but somehow it's still locked in Senate.
It is locked because this is politics. In fact, I think what is happening here is that the Mount Kenya MPs have decided to hold the president at ransom. Their reasoning must be, this is what you do for us before you leave. And that is why suddenly, even those who have disturbed him the whole of their time are all, huddling around the whole idea. Suddenly, Susan Kihika seems to have realized that this is very, very fair, and so on this, the president is very, very right. Suddenly, Moses Kuria, who has opposed the president, has decided this is very, very fair. Listen, I want to urge them as such. This debate is a debate about the country and fixing the nation. We cannot insult the spirit of the Constitution by reintroducing marginalization in a language that almost seems perfect. And we are not explaining to the people in these counties. For them, it is all simplistic. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. And for the common man, this may make sense. But they need to understand that first, the equalization fund was to be 0.5% of the nationally collected revenue, not the national revenue, nationally collected, which means the money is collected in Kiambu should have been, part of it should have been sent to the national kitty so that it helps their brothers in Wajir. The money is collected in Kisumu should have been put in a national kitty so that it helps their brothers and sisters in Turkana. But that has first not been achieved. An attempt to achieve it, so it's reversal. And so I would urge our fellow, parliamentarians and legislators for once to be selfless, not selfish. Reason on behalf of the other Kenyans. It is the Kenya we want to leave behind. It would be my joy, Trevor, for example, to have Northeastern and Turkana as places where we could live. In other countries, arable parts of the country like Kisii, Nyeri, sections of Nyanza, Central, would be left for big and large-scale agriculture. And isn't this the government that has eloquently spoken for food security as one of the big 4 agenda? Then why don't we support the possible development of other areas so that in good time we may even have people moving towards those places to ease the pressure off the lands in these areas for the benefit of the nation? I know that's a debate that no one wants to start. And so I am in absolute support of, if not getting something better, then reviewing what we have. The current revenue allocation model was hinged on various things. The last revision of it factored in issues such as the ability to collect revenue. Now, are you telling me Tharaka Nithi has the same opportunity of collecting revenue as Kiambu? It's not true. Or as Kisumu? No, it's not true. Because they don't have buildings to tax. They don't have vehicles to park in their town so that they can tax them. These are the things we need to look at in depth.
But David, it's not just the president's men. We've seen even people from the opposition side or perceived opposition side saying that they would support this one man, one shilling, one vote. And also at the same time, we've had Irungu Kangata even saying that if they don't, then we will consider our position on BBI.
Well, they have not, as you have seen. I think the president and the former prime minister's persons have all gathered in one corner, because I realize this is a big thing for the president. And so the prime minister has said, for the sake of BBI, you don't want to water things down. But I want to thank the few senators who are causing the stalemate, because it is for the good of the country. And it is for a good reason that this would be stopped 7 times. It is and would be for a good reason that you see a cross-section of parliamentarians from what was Tangatanga and Kieleweke having an agreement on either side of this divide. For some for selfish reasons and for others for objective reasons. I want to urge caution on the part of the Senate, because the Senate must understand that globally, the Senate is the place where you treat tyranny. It is the place where you offer, fairness. And that's their job, to ensure that there is equitable distribution, that the person who is far down, who needs much more effort to bring to the same level, has to be given resources that are adequate and sometimes more than others to bring them to level.
But do you find it strange that this is coming almost just a few months after the issue of Mount Kenya leaders saying that there's not enough resources being channeled their way? In fact, that is how they were accusing the president.
Yeah, and it's called speaking from both sides of the cheek, because in one of the presser, my good friend Ngunjiri Wambogo lists the number of initiatives that are ongoing in Mount Kenya, and we all know them. On the other, they conveniently decide that they haven't had enough. And that's why I'm saying that the president has been held ransom by parliamentarians who are playing politics. I can dare say that I doubt the president would want to have all this going on at the expense, to benefit some counties at the expense of others. I think the president, just like Raila Odinga, who is the doyen of devolved politics, they know and would support an equitable model of development. And this proposal is not one of those. It must be called out for what it is. And I have no two chills about it. And so there would be need for reconsideration. I guess this is why the president has not spoken. The president has not addressed this issue in person. Neither has the former prime minister addressed this issue, because they understand the sticky issues around it. And I would advise and urge that a middle ground is found. Indeed, there could be a model that benefits all, that does not subject the 18 counties to misery or marginalization, while it uplifts the 18. In fact,
that is what I was about to ask you as we wind up. Is there any way that then we will achieve fiscal justice?
It is possible to achieve fiscal justice, but we need to be deliberate about achieving fiscal justice. It will not just happen. We have to deliberately decide that all these other counties deserve a fair shot at the cake. All these other counties deserve to be treated right. That some counties were advantaged pre-colonially over the others. That counties, for example, around Nairobi, before even we started this, our self-rule, before we got our Madaraka, these counties had piped water. They had tarmac roads. That was not the case for counties like Tharaka Nithi or Marsabit or Mandera or Kitui. And if we reason like that, if we understand that there were advantages ahead of time, then we will drop this, I want to call it nonsense, of basing our allocation entirely
All right. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. That's David Osian. You seem to be having a slight technical hitch. David, you're winding up on your views?
Yes, I was winding up on my views, and I was just urging that the senators sit down and consider that this is for future, not for now. People who have made rules for now have regretted in the future. And that one would say that it would be revised in 5 years. You cannot do a mistake deliberately to go and amend it 5 years later. There is to understand that equitable distribution has been the hallmark of our constitution, and that cannot be watered down in no other way.
All right. David Osian, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning on this governance issue that it seems to be a stalemate at the Senate. Let's bring in Governor Mutua, Alfred Mutua of Machakos there, just to find out from him how this has affected the operations in the counties. Remember, now the senators have adjourned for a record 7 times without getting a solution or getting any deal on this deadlock. Governor, thanks for making time for us this morning. So first of all, before we get into how this has affected the operations in the counties, what is your take on this stalemate right now at the Senate?
I think this is a process we go through democracy. You know, Kenyans get very excited quickly when there's a small problem. But it reflects our history, it reflects our poverty levels, it reflects our inequity that we have experienced over the years. And so this is a reflection of the problems we've had, the 60 years that we have basically tried to develop, but we basically plundered through corruption, through unequal distribution of wealth, through people not really caring about the masses, but only caring about themselves. So when I see it playing out, the drama that's playing out is very good for us, because it's telling us that for the first time, this is our country, this is Kenya. Let's have a serious discussion about money, because it's all about money. At the end of the day, it's all about who has more than the other one and how do we create wealth among ourselves.
So we see now that the senators seem to not get a consensus out of this. So out of their arguments, which one do you think makes sense as a governor?
I think both of them make sense, depending on where you're looking at it. I mean, I was looking at a fellow governor yesterday, Mwangi Iria, who was saying that if it is an issue of allocating us per land, then he'll start also charging. He should be given money for his water. And you were saying that when you look at the population, because money should go to people. People of, Muranga get 4,000 shillings per head or so, while other counties, they get about 60,000 shillings per head. Yet he also has to supply health facilities, healthcare, roads, etc., etc. So it's more of a balance. So when I look at it this way. The people who are advocating for one person, one vote, 1 shilling have something that is accurate about it, because it's about where do you put resources? You put resources on people, not necessarily on land. But on the other hand, the people are advocating on masses of land. They advocate on masses of land because they're talking about inequality that has happened for a long time, whereby some areas which are closer to Nairobi seem to have developed, and like the last speaker was talking about, have been left behind. I remember when I visited Kitui South at one time, and I was surprised that a whole constituency did not have tarmac road. A whole constituency did not have even an inch of piped water. So my recommendation is this. We have to find a balance, and whereby people who feel like they need to get resources according to population are able to get resources, but then there needs to be an affirmative action. Money coming from elsewhere to buffer other counties that have been left behind, to tell them, okay, here you are getting this, but here is an extra 5-10 billions for the next 5 years. Jipangeni, catch up with the rest. And then that way, even counties that are behind, then you get your act together. If you blow up that opportunity, then it's up to you.
You know, what I find interesting, Governor, is that your own senator is in agreement with the plan of 1 man, 1 shilling. How come you're reading from different scripts?
Well, I don't think he's in agreement with that. I think he's a bit confused, which is a common, parameter of his. But we are, we've tried to talk to our senator. We are saying that as Machakos, we are comfortable getting more money. Everybody wants to get more money. But the question we need to ask is this: when you get that more money, what have you done with it? The counties that have been receiving more money than Machakos, What miracles have you done than Machakos with the money that you got in Machakos? We have to be realistic here. So is it about money, or is it management of money? Is it about the roads you're building or the cost of roads you're building? Because if I give you an extra 2 billion shillings and you're building a road at 200 kilometers per kilometer, whereas in Machakos, with my little money, I'm building the same quality of road for 10 to 15 million per kilometer, at the end of the day, you'll never catch up. You'll always be poor. So it needs to be a balance between, are you getting more money, and what are you doing with that amount of money that you're getting? Because I think there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of wastage in this country. There are many deals that are made, contracts, everything, tenders, everything is a scandal here because people don't really care. They want more money so that they can get that more money. Yes, it is good for the people, but also make deals and also make personal wealth.
But now as we speak, how has this stalemate affected the operations of counties? You are running one of them as Machakos. How is this affecting your operation?
Well, what is happening is that counties are not moving as we speak. Not necessarily because of the stalemate, but also because we've not been able to feed our budgets. For example, in Machakos, our budget is sitting at the control of budget, waiting for approval. We already fed into the system. It's taken several days to get the approval. The bureaucracy that we have in our government is too much. Even if we get that approval and we go in there, the law allows us to get at least 50% of the monies for recurrent expenditure. At this era of COVID, that is critical because I need to run my hospitals. I need to run my ambulances. I need to run my services to my people. I need people to actually be able to be policed properly. I need people to actually get services of water properly. So that the stalemate is causing a problem, but it is not the main problem. The main problem we face in this country is endless bureaucracy, whereby it takes forever to do everything. And I ask myself, and this is one of the things that I'll change when I'm president, because they're able to change it in Singapore. We know since independence, or wherever it was changed, that the financial year ends in June. So if the financial year ends in June, and we say that budgets have to be approved by end of June, why is it that every year we go to August, even September, before the following year's allocation is actually available for use? It is always delayed for 2 months. Why? The financial year should start on the 1st of July. So we need to have a system whereby by end of June, all the budgets are fed in so that we can start spending money from the beginning of July so that our people can get development, so that our youth can get employment. We wonder why we don't have employment in this country. We wonder why services are slow. We wonder why development takes forever. It is because of bloody bureaucracy and basic fiscal disorganization that we have put into our culture. I mean, it blows my mind. Up to today, we have never figured out the financial year starts in July. Up to today, after so many years of independence, there's something surely wrong with the way we do things.
But many people say that that bureaucracy is meant to enhance accountability, and also there are absorption issues with some of the counties that may not even be able to absorb the money that is sent to them.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean accountability? I mean, give me the money, let me spend the money, and then audit me afterwards. If I've eaten the money, if I've spent it badly, if I've not done well, take me to jail, lock me up. But don't hold my development. Don't put my unemployed youth in Machakos who would like to get down and get some work, and on hold. Life is not about the few who live in Nairobi, who have good cars, who live in mansions, have swimming pools, have drivers. Life is for those villagers. There are children in this country walking around barefoot. There are children in this country walking around without any trousers. There are children in this country walking around malnourished, and yet we delay and talking about accountability. The so-called accountability is what has led to corruption. And it's something we talked about, Trevor, another time. For example, you know how the system is. From the time somebody has delivered a service and needs to be paid so that money can circulate in the market, it will take 32 steps of bureaucracy before that person gets the money. 32 steps. And after that person gets the money, the central bank is also asking questions. Those 32 steps also become ATMs. So if you want your file to move even faster than 1 week or 2 months or 3 months, then unaanza kupeana kitu kidogo. So we have created bureaucracy thinking that we are, setting up a system of accountability, but what we are doing is enhancing corruption, and our people are suffering. We really have to change the way we do things in this country, Trevor.
And now, as we speak so far, Governor, there's been an agreement by Treasury to release 29 billion shillings that is owed to counties. Will this at least help in the meantime that the stalemate still persists?
Sorry, I did not get what you said. I think the line was breaking slightly. If you can come again.
Treasury has agreed to disburse 29 billion shillings. Treasury has now agreed to disburse 29 billion shillings to counties. Will it help in the meantime that there's still a stalemate in the Senate?
Well, the 29 billion it is giving us, the monies that remained from the last financial year that are actually our money. It's owed to us. So it's not that they're disbursing money because of the stalemate. This is what the agreement we had with the president when we met in the summit, is that the monies that remained, because Treasury did not disburse all the monies up to June. They disbursed up to April and May. So there's all this money that remained in Treasury meant for the last financial year that have now been rolled into this financial year. So it will help because, first of all, I mean, what is the day today? I have not paid my doctors. I have not paid my, inspectorate workers. I have not paid my nurses. I have not paid my officers. We've not paid for water, so things are crippling. Yet we need to get that money so that our doctors who are on the front line fighting COVID can actually get their salaries. We've not paid for the insurance packages. So these delays, these continuous delays by Treasury are hurting us in the counties and then are hurting our 90 and hurting the development of our people.
And now, Governor, talk to me about this issue of Zimtani, because I know there's quite a number of youth in your area and you're very passionate about them. Do you think this is an initiative that works as we speak?
Well, it depends on how it is, but for me, the problem I have with Zimtani is the kind of jobs that people are doing. I remember when President Uhuru Kenyatta was being asked about getting more debt, and he said, well, we're not getting that debt for recurrent expenditure. We're getting that debt for development expenditure. Zimtani should be put for development. Let our youth build something that can be seen. Let them come and build toilets. Let them come and build roads like they're doing in Machakos, where now we are building a cobblestone road. Let them come and do things that they can walk by a few months later and see it. But if it's Zimtani for opening drainages and just slashing bushes and everything, then you come after 2 weeks and the bushes are back, drainages are filled up, then it's cyclical. You're just pouring money. We need to pour money into the economy, but let that money build substantial things that last, that help people. Let the youth go to markets and using stones and cement be able to build marketplaces so that the markets are not of mud, so that all the markets are cobbled or are cemented. Let them put up structures. Let them build homes for the people who don't have homes. Let them do something that at the end of the day people will say, yes, hii ilikuwa project ya Zimtani. But slashing bushes, clearing drainages, sweeping the streets, it's a recurrent expenditure. It's just pouring money that is going nowhere. We need development projects.
So right now, from a governance angle, then, what are the priority areas that needs to be fixed in this country, and what would be the best way of doing that?
Well, we need to be able to create wealth. One of the challenges we are facing, and one of the challenges that are bringing all these problems, that we're not able to raise revenue because we've not been cushioned enough. We've been living from hand to mouth. We have excessive debt, which is at times it's good to have debt. You can operate with debt. But when that debt is stolen, that's a problem. When that debt comes in and we are borrowing and we steal part of that debt, we strike deals. If we are building a railway line, if we are building roads, and part of the money that we've been given as debt is also stolen by some very senior, government officials, then there's a problem. So we need to fix the corruption angle, but we need to fix the way we raise revenue. I've looked at it. We tax a few people. We are now expanding to the middle class, and all we think about is taxing more and more and more instead of widening the tax base. It's a discussion we had at one time when I was a government spokesman, and I was saying, why is it that, countries like the United Arab Emirates, they charge you 5%? Why is it other countries charge you 10%, income tax or business tax? Why is it, you know what I mean? So we need to widen the base, cut out the bureaucracy, let people come here and work. Give you an example. We have investors that come into this country and they come and see me and they tell me clearly that before you get an investment set up in Kenya, it will take you 18 months because of the bureaucracy. Land titles take forever. agreements, approvals, going back and forth. If you want to bring in foreign exchange, the central bank inauliza maswali 310, So it takes 18 months to 2 years. Go to Rwanda, it's taking 2 weeks, at most 1 month. So will people take money? They'll take it to Rwanda, who are benefiting the Rwandan youth. You don't hear of large numbers of unemployed youth in Rwanda. You don't hear of large numbers of people suffering in Rwanda. Why? Because they have figured out that they need to catch up with the rest of the world. They need to do it the Singapore way. They need to do it the South Korean way. They need to do it the Australian way. Here, we put bureaucracy. There's a form of laziness that has permeated into our lives. So for us, at the end of the day, to avoid all these problems, let's create wealth, cut out the bureaucracy, be innovative, increase manufacturing, and Kenya will be a better place. And that is what I intend to do in the long run myself.
But how then do we deal with this issue of youth unemployment, Governor? Because there's even a law right now that 30% of procurement needs to go to the youth, persons with disability, and women. It's called AGPO, Access to Government Procurement Opportunities. Yes. But it is still not happening, despite it being clearly written in the law.
Well, it is not also happening because the youth are not able to do it. And it is also because of our culture. There's this culture of nisaidie saa zote. And the opportunities are there, but our youth are also not getting it because of the credit system in our country. Because if they go to a bank and they borrow money so that they can get that money, so they can be able to service that tender that they have won, what are the interest rates? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18%. So at the end of the day, you're working for the bank. You're not working for yourself. What is the interest rate in a country like the United States, like Australia, in the UK, in France? You're looking at 2 to 3% at most. 1.5%, 5% is a shock if it's 5% anywhere in the developed world. Why is it 18% in this country? So those are some of the challenges. Our youth are not taking it because they're afraid. But also, we need to get our youth to start thinking about getting into business. We have this culture. Tuliambiwa someni kwa nguvu, uongeze pia bidii, mwisho wa kusoma utapata kazi nzuri sana. So we've been primed in our heads that once you finish studying, you will get a good job. But we need to realize that at times, once you finish studying, you can get into business and create jobs. That is why the intake of the youth fund is also very low, because everybody is looking for a job. Nobody is thinking about creating work. So we need to get that innovation, that entrepreneur spirit in our youth so that throughout high school, people are told, you don't all have to look for work. You can actually start work. And when they're in high school, people are given opportunities to start doing some small-time biashara. Unauza mandazi hapa kidogo, unafungua kiosk kidogo, you do a side deal kidogo, so that by the time you finish high school, you get into college, you already have that spirit of entrepreneurship, because this market of Kenya will not for a long time, maybe 20, 30 years, be able to absorb the number of unemployed youth that are out there and are being churned out who are looking for work.
So, Governor, let's stay with these issues of succession politics for a bit, because I know we're talking about the youth and empowering them, but there's still this issue of connections. How do we break that chain? Because there's always this belief that it's only if you know someone, that's when you succeed. Even in politics, your region is first supposed to support you before you go to other places as well. In fact, it's the elusive unity, like they call it.
And therein lies our problems in this country, whereby, we always think about, it has to be somebody else declaring you, it has to be somebody else from your tribe, it has to be somebody else. And we need a shift, Trevor. And that is why some of us have come out and said that in 2022, we are going to run for president very, very seriously, so that we can put this country back into the rails of where it was supposed to be for a long time ago. We lost track somewhere because our DNA, the systems that we've had for a long time, have been the same ideology. I don't know. Trevor, let me speak a bit badly here. Not badly, but something that people are afraid to talk about. You play, I don't know whether you watch football, Trevor, and there are different styles of playing football. There are those people who kick the ball up, eventually they score. But there are the ones who play that game where you play the carpet game, where you go 1, 2, 3 and you score goals. I can say that the Kenyan system has been, kicking the balls up because our ideological principles, our economic principles are based on one system, and that is the KANU ruling system. And KANU has done a lot for our country, and I like KANU. It has done very well. But I think that the principles that were put into us from independence by those leaders are outdated for today. And so we need a shift in leadership. Because when you look at all these leaders who are clamoring for power, who are in power, they all have that DNA. They have that injection of the KANU philosophy that is in them. And so we need fresh, we need a new way, we need new people. Let me give you an example. President Jomo Kenyatta was KANU with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Daniel Arap Moi, Tingiza Kidole, KANU. You look at Mwai Kibaki, the one I worked under, very good president, was also in KANU, even as a vice president, minister of treasury under KANU, one-party rule. Look at Moses Mudavadi, the father of Musalia Mudavadi, were in KANU. Musalia Mudavadi himself in KANU. In Ukambani, you look at Kalonzo Musyoka, Mulu Mutesia, Kalonzo Musyoka, Secretary General of KANU. William Ruto, KANU for Youth, 92. Raila Odinga left NDP at one time, joined KANU, was working, was a bona fide member of KANU. Gideon Moi, chairman of KANU. Uhuru Kenyatta, before TNA, before Jubilee, was the chairman of KANU. All these leaders were in KANU. So we've had people who have been trained and who have in their blood a different ideology, which has, it has done well for Kenya. We are where we are because of the KANU rule and everything, but times have changed. And for us to be able to catch up, for us to be another Singapore, to be another Europe, we need to break away from the past and we need change. And that is what I'm bringing to this country. Somebody who is not tainted, not necessarily tainted, but somebody who does not have that DNA of KANU in their system. Somebody who will be a fresh breath of air, who will say, we can change Kenya for the better, we can catch up with the rest of the world. We are not created to suffer. We are also created to live well while we are alive.
So what is your ideology, Governor?
My ideology is one of economic empowerment. I mean, I've studied, and I'm very big on economy and fiscal responsibility. It's about growing wealth. My ideology is breaking away from tribalism, because nobody sends a postcard and says, I want to be born a Luo, I want to be born a Kikuyu, I want to be born a Kamba, we have to get this out of our system. And let me tell you, Trevor, you hear maybe there's been an accident, and one of your viewers hears that there's been a major accident on a road near where they are, and they are told that it is one of their loved ones, their mother, their father, their sister, their brother, their wife, their husband, their child, amegongwa na gari. You run to the hospital, you find them dying there. They are bleeding, their stomach is wide open, they have rolled their eyes. And you start saying, Mungu nisaidie. You can see them dying in front of you. And then they tell you, wacha tumkimbize theater, we've got a good surgeon. If that surgeon operates on this person, chances of your loved one surviving is basically assured, 90 to 100%. When that person is being taken to theater, do you then stop and say, ngoja kidogo, huyo surgeon ni Mkamba kama mimi, huyo surgeon ni Mjaluo kama mimi, ni Mkukuyu kama mimi, ni Mmeru kama mimi, ngoja kidogo, huyo daktari anamtibu mama yangu, anamtibu mtoto wangu, ni kabila langu. We don't do that. Kenya is in the ICU. The Kenya is basically being taken to surgery. So we need the best person who can actually treat this country. And so we need to get our youth especially out of the confusion that they're being put in about just following somebody because they're your tribe. Let's follow people because they can change lives. When you elect somebody because they're your tribe, they don't change your life. They're changing their personal lives and the lives of their children and their families. And we've seen this. People give their jobs to their sons. They give people tenders to their family members, give people support to their own family. But you continue being poor. So this colonial imperialism that was put into us of tribalism has to be out. So that's the kind of leadership that I'll bring that will show that we are not tribal. Because my friend Trevor, if Obama was vying for a seat in Kenya, he would probably not win. Ataulizwa, what is your base? What is your tribal base? Regardless of his wonderful ideas. But he can run for president of the largest and most powerful nation in the world, run the largest army in the world, the largest economy, and is elected as a black person in the United States. But in Kenya, ataulizwa, kwenyu umeleta watu wangapi? Nani amekusupport kwenyu? Kabila lako limekuweka watu wangapi? It is basically stupidity of the highest level that has been ingrained in us by the colonial powers that we need to shift from. So my leadership will be a leadership where people will see the face of Kenya, where people will see people are hired because they are able to do it, not because of their tribes. because we want people who can serve us, want people who can provide services, want people who can help us grow money. We are tired of being poor. We want more money in our pockets.
All right. Governor, we're running out of time here, but I'll give you a chance to just talk about how that shift of mindset will be done, because the reality of Kenyan politics is that there's always allegiances and alliances. And there's now we've seen there's dynasties and there's Hustler Nation. Those realities are still very much alive. How then do we change the perception of the voter, not of the person who wants to be voted for, to pin their ideas on ideology and not on any of these other parameters?
Well, it will take some time, but it's a balance of both. But this is where now the media come in, because the media also play into these tribal alliances. They say these are the kingpins, these are the basically tribal chiefs. Some of us are not interested in being chiefs of a tribe. We're interested in being the fifth president of this country. And so we need the media to also shift the conversation. We have to form alliances. I'm going to form alliances, coalitions, not basically based on tribe, but based on ideological parameters, people who I feel I can work with to change this country. And the good thing is that Kenya is shifting. And let me tell you why I know it's shifting. When I ran for re-election in Machakos, they told me, Mutua, you're finished, because you are not supporting this wave of NASA at the time. You're not supporting the so-called kingpin. I said I'm going to stand on principle because I had worked, I had done development, I've made development. And so as a result, I was able to be re-elected because of my development record, not based because of the tribal line where everybody was following. They said, yes, kuna kabila, lakini Mutua amefanya kazi. There was a poll the other day that came out where I was ranked third in this country. I've not even started campaigning. Why are people saying Mutua can be a good leader of this country? Because I have shown that I have shifted the conversation from tribal and just politics to development, because we elect leaders to serve us. And that is what I want to tell the people of Kenya, that we can change this country if we also agree to change the way we vote. It's a work in progress, but I believe that from now, within 2 years, Kenya will shift.
Great. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Governor. I'm sure we'll have this conversation again at some point. That is Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua, is the governor from Machakos, speaking to us about a myriad of issues, succession politics, and also the revenue divide.